Well, then, I guess we're getting started, people. I'm excited for you to be here. I'm so thrilled. Welcome to Untriggered. This is a space for deeper awareness because, in my world, awareness is the foundation for personal power. And for those of you who do not know me, I'm Liza Leiss, and I am an international leadership mentor, emotional, I guess, well-being educator, if I can say that, and a business strategist. So for the past 6 years, I've been helping people scale with soul, so scale their business with soul, lead with from truth, from their own truth, and reconnect to their natural wholeness. Essentially, I've also built a leadership certification, led over hundreds of workshops, served thousands of clients in all kinds of ways through group coaching, retreats, one-to-one sessions, online programs. And it's been literally my deepest honor to leave this little tiny imprint, and maybe a big one as well, of integrity in the people I work with. And I'm so very excited to leave one golden footprint with you today as well. Golden footprint is, by the way, also my kind of a mantra. Always leave a golden footprint with every person, every thing you meet. Yeah, so, but before we begin, I do need to make that clear. I'm not a psychologist. Um, I am a trigger informed coach, and I coined the term because when I began this work, I sought out mentorship, supervision groups, collaboration with therapists, so I could hold space safely for those who had experienced deep trauma. And honestly, if I say deep trauma, it can be anything, whatever you encounter as something that made you feel unsafe, especially in the early development, well, the early years, I would say. So, um, in basically the reason why is because I wanted everyone to feel safe when they come into my rooms, to fully let themselves be seen in their vulnerability, because I've seen that when you are able to be seen, when you're met with by someone and you are actually being seen and not being judged, that people start blossoming, and out of a sudden these old stories stay old stories. And well, over time, I refined my method, got trained, began training others. And that's also something that I do in my certification program. But obviously, today is not about that. Today is not about credentials or the Soulful Leader program. It's about clarity. And I think that's for me the most important piece, because there's so much information out there. Now we have ChatGPT as well. And most of it is great, but very few people show you how to apply it when you're spiraling or are stuck in a loop. And that's where I hope to come in today. Because my job, I see it as in a kind of a translation job, like translate insight into integration to make your knowledge live inside of your nervous system. Many people have already shared that they don't feel like connected to their nervous system, that they've been through something where it's completely like hijacked their nervous system. And that's really truly what it is about, to come back to that balanced state of being. And well, sometimes I guess it's also better to learn from someone who has walked the talk or the messy path, rather than someone who's only read the textbook. And I feel like I've been, well, on both sides of the spectrum. I've been the person who has been overreacting, who has been feeling overwhelmed, out of control, and I'm, or I used to be a person who was really good in trying to kind of hold it all together. And that's when life felt kind of hard. It felt chaotic. It felt not really efficient. And what I didn't mention earlier, I am German, so efficiency is kind of like in my DNA. Um, it matters. Efficiency matters, which also brings me to one of the most important truths in, let's say, this work. The faster we recognize a trigger, the faster we can come back to our power. And I said that at the beginning, this is my core reason why I want you to understand that work, because I want you to be empowered. I want you to feel like you're owning your ship, because life doesn't own it unless we give it that power. So I want you to reclaim that power and come back. And so it's not just about, let's say, moving through discomfort, but moving through it with presence, with grace, and with clarity. So it doesn't have to be that messy um, part of where you can't even see the next step in front of you, but actually you can be present in it. So that's like truly what I want to help you understand today. So that even in the hard moments, which I guess everyone here has encountered, we can still see and find opportunity, and we can still see and find choice. So today we're going to cover three main things, and obviously I'm going to share bits and pieces from other probably topics as well. But we're going to focus on what a trigger actually is, why we react the way we do, and how to stop repeating the same loops or trigger loops and respond from a freer and more empowered place. And what I also feel called to, especially in this regards, what I feel very called to share is it's not about shaming a reaction. So I often say also in my marketing, I say from reaction to response. By doing so, we're not shaming the reaction. What we're doing though is reclaiming the power that is inside of those reactions. So the reaction itself is not bad. It's just a signal that we're not like in our center. And now, before we truly get started in diving deeper into, we're going to have two trigger warnings. I mean, one disclaimer I already said. For those of you who just joined, I'm not a psychologist. Number two, trigger. Number one, I will share some examples, and that might resonate with you. And if that happens, I want you to, if you want, I often close my eyes, but like close your eyes, breathe deeper, inhale longer, exhale longer, tap your body. If something does feel off in your body, then really try to connect back with your body, because what happens when you are in a trigger situation is that you disconnect from your body. You disconnect from the present moment that is now. So you lose touch to your body. So tapping or like cold water exposure, as well as like breathing, can rapidly shift and bring you back. So that's important for me to say. I'm not going to have extreme examples. I'm not going to go very, very deep, since it is an online container right now, space, workshop. And I don't see you, so I don't see you shifting. So that's why it's so important for me that you know that. Trigger number two, sorry. If you have never felt emotionally triggered by your boss, well, for me, it's my own boss, so I get triggered by myself sometimes. Um, your partner, your parent, stranger on the internet, this is not for you. So that being said, you can choose to stay in or you go out. But for the rest of us who can resonate with, yes, I have been triggered by X, Y, and Z, let's dive in. So what is a trigger? Um, we all probably, everyone, every single person here has probably their own understanding about what a trigger is. What I want to do is I want to break it down. I want to simplify everything that we're going to do, because what I've seen in this personal development space is that we overcomplicate everything. And life is very simple. Personal development is essentially simple, but we're just overcomplicating everything. And I don't say that because I don't think that you can handle the overcomplication, but I think it's unnecessary. And so for me, in order to live a life that's aligned, that's fulfilling, that's freaking awesome, we have to get honest about what's really running the show. We need to see what's no longer aligned. And we need to learn how to meet ourselves and that with presence instead of reactivity. So that's the space from which true creation actually begins. That's the space where everything shifts. So today I invite you to simplify again and simplify what you've been through. Doesn't mean simplifying that it's devaluing it. Okay. So simplifying means simplify how you've been coping, simplify the internal noise. You will see where we're going with this. But from there, you can literally watch how ease and lightness and also joy begin to return into your system. And also someone said something about emotional attachment. So also that you will see how much you come back to yourself, and you can see how you can stay within yourself, instead of, let's say, attaching yourself to someone or to something. So my very simple definition of a trigger is that a trigger essentially is when your nervous system responds to the past, but it convinces you that it's reacting to the present moment. So let's say these examples, like I probably have thousands of examples. I try to keep it short, but like your partner says, "Can we talk later?" Your nervous system, I've heard this so many times, your nervous system hears, "Fuck, I have done something wrong." Your friend forgets to invite you for the group dinner. Your nervous system body says, "I've been abandoned again. No one wants me here." Right? It's like these stories, the out of a sudden we just make something up. I'm laughing because it's actually, well, it's not. Anyways, let's go back to this. So the thing is, it's not logical why we do this, but it's biological. Most of us think we are reacting to this moment, to the moment that the friend forgot to invite you for dinner. But we're actually reacting to unfinished emotional business, and we're trying to solve it in the here now, in real time. And much of that is influenced, or, well, much of that is influenced because you're stuck there. And I'm going to bring in two major, let's say, teachings or methodologies that have influenced my teachings. One is Gestalt therapy. And again, I'm going to put this in the slides as well. And the other one I will get into soon. Gestalt therapy, again, I'm oversimplifying it now, not overcomplicating, I'm oversimplifying it. A lot of my teachings and lessons come from there. I think part of it is because my mom teaches in that. She does the therapy like with her patients and stuff like that. So I've grown up in that kind of field. I've also experienced it. So that's why I think it's kind of like very interesting for me to kind of bring that in here as well. So in Gestalt therapy, and I want you to imagine something as I'm speaking, okay? Because it's more of an exploration for you. In Gestalt therapy, they talk about a Gestalt. So everyone who speaks German, the German language, might already get a hint of what it is. For others, it is more some sort of a past version of you. So you kind of can imagine a horizontal timeline, okay? On that timeline, looking at the past, if that's the past, every single second of the day, every single second of the day, every single second of the years, let's say, there has been a version of you created in this methodology. And I like to combine all different things because this has been very incremental in the learnings and teachings for my clients. Clients have been like understanding this much better, and we're able to integrate these triggers much faster. So bear with me. So again, in Gestalt therapy, we talk about a Gestalt. A Gestalt is something like a past version of you. If we just imagine a timeline as if there was a timeline, and as if there was a past, right? There are millions of gestalts or versions of you. Now, there are differences in gestalts or versions of you that have been created in the past. One version that is complete, and one that is incomplete. And that's the major difference. When a gestalt is essentially incomplete, what that means is there's still something unfinished. There's still this unfinished business, the emotional unfinished business. So when a version of Gestalt is complete, that's when we feel very integrated. Everything feels good. Like you're like smooth sailing, okay? So it's very, very simple to differentiate that. So every time we react to something that's happened in the past, it's only because the Gestalt is still incomplete. Or let's say it's open. So sometimes I would imagine that as if like you draw a human being, right? And you color it. And the colored version, let's say, is the complete version. It has all the learnings. It was like the experience itself, it was rounded. While the incomplete one would be not colored. There's no color in it. There's still something, or even like let's say you paint that person and you leave out a little bit of that sketch. That's where the integration still needs to happen in order for you to fully be free. And so because the gestalt is still open, we need to meet that version in your past. And we can also talk about, you can also do this in like past lives if you want to go there. That's totally fine. We need to meet that version of you in the past life with whatever it needed back then, before we then, just project that feeling of the past in the now. So there's a big difference because right now you are in the now. You have grown. You know, you've had so many different experiences. So now, in this very moment, right now, as you're sitting here listening to this, you are more emotionally aware. You're more emotionally mature. So you can respond differently. You do not have to do the same thing again and again and again. Again, this is a truly like a simplification of the whole idea through the lens of my understanding and the adjustments I've made whenever I worked with clients on their pasts, on their triggers, because I saw patterns in the way that people would respond to the exercises that I would give them. And it was, and shortly after something was molding together, what actually helped everyone. And that's why there's so many other things we can talk about. But this is what I've seen help so many. And that's why I wanted to share it today with you. So obviously part of the Untriggered Club, let's say, finds its origin in the Gestalt therapy as well as in the inner child work. And now I'm talking about the inner child work. I'm not talking about the inner child work that most people talk about. You can also call it just the past version of yourself work, if you feel that is better. For some, inner child work doesn't land really well in the body, so you choose whatever you call it. But this combination I'm talking about offers you a way to meet yourself and every single version of you that still resides within you, with a sense of respect, tenderness, and also compassion. Because if we cannot meet ourselves with respect, with tenderness, with compassion, guess what happens? You just open another, like you just kind of open up a gestalt again, a version again that isn't met fully how she or he is supposed to be met. So you start forgiving yourself for who you've been and how you've reacted in certain moments in your life. Because back then, yes, you simply didn't have the resources available. Now, again, you have become more responsible. Responsibility meaning you have a better ability to respond to life. So now that you've grown, you have different resources, you have different ways of responding to life. However, and that's the important piece to this, when you're stuck in a loop that is still open from the past, that's when you react in the very same way. And if you're not aware of it, it's an automated system. So you keep doing the same thing and you react in a way that is, as if you were still the past version. And obviously, we see it in our world at the moment, everywhere. We have enough adults on this planet who are still run by their 4-year-old selves. And we need to understand that. And that's a personal responsibility. And I think that's also a major key why I believe emotional maturity is key to living the life that you want to live, to creating the relationships that you desire. Is also key and key element. I've seen it again and again, but for you to build a business that is not just a business, but actually a legacy, something that lives beyond you, whether that's impact, generational wealth, or maybe a meaningful contribution to this planet, whatever your vision is, it all comes back to emotional maturity. But it's that little pause in between that disposition that shapes the entire trajectory of your life and also of your business. And I think people underestimate it, underestimate the simplicity in this work. They underestimate the pause. They're like, no, I don't have time to do this. Like, let's just like move through it quickly, right? But if you do not have time for it now, you will spend so many more years in that freaking state. And I can just only tell you how liberating it can be if you feel centered as you move through life. So this is why I truly believe that living in a constant state of being triggered is the most inefficient way to live. And definitely also the most inefficient way to lead other people or lead yourself, lead your business. It's like driving on with one foot on the gas, and with the other one, it's like as if your inner child is like kind of like on the brake or a panic button, right? So when we don't recognize our patterns, we essentially waste time. We bleed energy, literally. We don't see great opportunities on the horizon. There's so many. We are just blind to them then. We miss them. We often confuse reactivity with even intuition. And I've seen the difference, obviously, first in myself. When I lead from my center, things start to flow. When I lead from my wounds, it's chaos. That's it. When I lead from that place, I'm not living in my alignment. Things feel harder. And I've seen it over and over again in my clients as well, business owners. Um, I'm creatives from like actually people from all walks of life, employees, CEOs, and so on and so forth. Students, I've seen it with so many people that I've done this work with. And this isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming aware, because awareness is what literally translates into freedom. So when I say I want to experience freedom, what I really mean is I want you to understand how you create your reality every single day. And your reality means also how long are you staying in that trigger? How fast can you snap out of it? Because the truth is, the reaction you think is about now, it usually isn't. So whatever is happening right now, and I have no idea how old you are, but the reaction that I am giving as a 30-year-old usually is not coming from my 30-year-old. And if you're creating your future based on past reactions, you're creating a past-based future. And if that doesn't click and that doesn't activate your personal responsibility to actually resolve and integrate triggers, then I don't know what will. So that's why becoming untriggered means you begin to unlayer the emotions that have literally hijacked your responses and integrate them into the present moment. That's what allows you then later on to create a future you've never experienced before while feeling safe to receive it. Because if you don't, you're just, again, repeating yesterday, just usually in a maybe prettier way of putting it. And one day you look around, we've all done this. Why hasn't it really changed here? Right? We're asking ourselves the question, like, why am I here again? Like, what? I thought I've been through this. We often come to this moment where we feel that. Why am I still not attracting the wealth? When I mean wealth, it's like the abundance, the peace, the deep contentment, the creative flow, the genuine joy. And the reason is because you're still reacting, creating from an outdated version of yourself. So now, as we're going through all of this, I want you to feel, again, stay grounded and also start getting confident that now you start creating from this moment. You start from here. You create from the now, from the most integrated version of you, because now you do have the tools and they're going to unlayer now. Okay? Minute by minute. And on that note, I want to share something I'm really excited about that I've also kind of created in the past. And some of you have already snagged it. It was a worksheet, workbook. But actually, what I've done in the past is that I created a journal about this. I'm not going to go much into it because I can't share anything with you on it because I have no idea about the physical print quality. It's new, and I might send the link later if you want it in an email, because we're not at that stage yet. Probably it was supposed to be finished, but it's not. So I want to start with your inner world. So the journal that I'm so proud to share with you today is because it integrates everything. That's one of those tools that I want to share with you. But also, don't worry, I'm going to share with you everything today, anyways. So, how do you actually create reality? Most of you probably know this, but I'm going to say it again because it's foundational. People often ask me if that's in coaching, if that's on events, if that's through a DM or something, why does my life still look like this? And the answer is very simple. Something happens, you experience an event, your body reacts, and then you spiral. What's actually happening, an external event occurs, your nervous system and your system takes it in and it filters it through your subconscious programs, your meta programs, your culture, your past experiences, your traumas, your memories, your beliefs, your stories, all of that. Um, that filter creates thoughts, it creates emotions. That again creates a body response that stores the tension. And also, out of a sudden, your body language shifts, your mood shifts. And that again, from that state on, that new state of being, that creates another, or like, let's say that's the reaction that you give to the external world. And that action, as it creates a new response to the external world, will create a new, let's say, inner response as well. So whatever you get out, it's a feedback. It's a feedback loop. You're in a loop. We're always in a loop. I am in a loop right now. You are always in a loop. But the loop can be an upward spiral. It can also be a downward spiral. Today, we're talking more about the downward spiral. So the most important piece is you need to understand that you can interrupt the loop. You can, and actually you must interrupt the loop if you want to evolve. So when you're triggered, you're often trapped in that downward spiral. So when I break it down, it's like you experience an event, your body reacts, you spiral. Then you start telling yourself these old stories. You confirm your old wound, that incomplete gestalt, and now you're stuck in a trigger loop. Unless you pause, you notice, and you get curious. Curiosity is a gateway, to be honest. So that's the moment of awareness. That's when the loop starts to kind of slowly but surely breaks, or yeah, it starts to break. And very often, when people are so stuck, let's say, in their loop, in that chaos, they ask me like, well, how the fuck should I pause when I'm in a freaking loop, Lisa? And I'm like, I get it, because your mind is racing, you're overwhelmed, you're kind of reacting before you actually realize that you've reacted. And what you need to know is that you can break the loop when you can name it. It's that simple. You can break the loop when you can name it. So how do you know you are in a trigger? Feel it in your body, because a trigger, you will feel it. Something feels off. You feel off. You will feel like you're not in control. You will feel like life is out of a sudden, like everyone here is probably into personal development in some sort of form. And they know like life is happening from me, but out of a sudden, life is happening against you again and to you, not through you. So you know your energy is off. Maybe you're tired, maybe you're sad, maybe you're annoyed, irritated, flat, disconnected, frustrated. These feelings are your cues. Let them be let's say the invitation to pause. That's when you actually can start and say stop. So one of the major rules in like my coaching is like you have to implement stop, like to yourself, not just like, like I do this to myself as what did in a long time. Like I feel like now it's more an integrated process. That's hence the journey, hence the way that I'm like sharing everything with you today as well, because it's such an automated process. But before, I needed to stop myself. I needed to say, stop, Lisa, what's going on? And that's, by the way, also where most people stop the work. So I'm glad that you stay here, because they don't pause. They power through, as I said before. They repeat, and then they must repeat the lesson again and again. And they again wonder, why is it not working for me? So do yourself a favor and keep going, pause and do the next valuable steps, because only when you pause you can start mapping your emotional loops. I kind of started to create for myself, when I work with clients very intimately, I kind of started creating these emotional landscapes, loops, maps, of my clients. So I could understand which triggers would trigger something else and actually keep them in a stuck loop. Um, but this is essentially what I would like for you to create for yourself. Literally, when you pause, you get so many insights about your inner world, your inner, let's say, emotional landscape. There's like kind of like you start becoming this person, this meme where this person stands in front of all these whiteboards and everything is just written in math, and you're like, yeah, that's you. Like you're becoming the nerd of your life. You knowing your inner world. Because only when you pause, you can meet the version of you that's stuck in the past. So when you pause, when you say, okay, stop, like, okay, I feel like let's walk back. I feel there's some sort of a irritation. I don't feel valued right now. When I don't feel valued right now, in that moment, and that's why we're doing this, and that's why I talk about it. And that's why I want you to rewatch this as well, because the more you hear it, the more you're listening to this, the more you become aware of it in your life. Very often, we forget that this right now, you educating yourself on becoming aware of your triggers helps you already in your life to become aware. So, as you feel that inadequacy, you're not feeling worthy, deserving, wherever something happened, pause, sit with it. When I say sit with this, get curious and ask. Number one, would be good to write this down, but it will also be in the slides. What am I actually reacting to? What's actually happening? Really, just what's actually happening. I like to add the actually, because actually means or puts me in a state of actually rethinking what's going on, putting it on paper. Number two, what does this remind me of? And number three, what do I need right now that I didn't get back then? So what's happening here is that you start to begin to dissolve the loop. These three questions put you in a state of clarity on what's going on. You're disrupting the pattern, aka you snap out. Out of a sudden, you're not in that state anymore, but you step out, and then you have a choice point. As you have that choice point of awareness, out of a sudden, you can then go back to all these incomplete gestalts and ask, what does it remind me of? Where have I felt that before? And as you tune into that voice, you can then ask yourself, what did I need then? What can I give that to myself right now? This alone can change your entire state. Because this stop, for example, that pause, that's a pattern interrupt. And the more you do it, the easier it is to actually integrate these and complete these gestalts. I know it sounds so super simple, but that's the whole point. My intention today is to simplify the process of becoming untriggered. Because even like when I was like, I don't even know when I got to this name, but like, because usually it was always the trigger worksheet. And somehow I was like, oh, I'm triggered. I don't even know if that's a real word, but it's fascinating because it implies that the trigger is in the past. I feel untriggered. Already points to a liberated version of you. It's untriggered is in the past tense. So here's the invitation that you name the trigger in the now, you trace it back to the past, you meet the need that went unmet, and then you respond with the power you have now. And that's how you begin to close and complete the open gestalts I spoke about. That's how the wounded versions of you become whole again. And that's how you literally come home to yourself, to that mature version of you. Okay? Amazing. This is the biggest chunk that needed to be understood today. I am mindful of time. We're gonna run a little late. I do want to share like a personal example, even though we're running late. I do want to share it quickly because I think it gives context to certain things as well. Probably it was one of the most crucial experiences and turning points in my emotional maturity journey. I was living in Amsterdam at the time. And I was in a long-term relationship. And I think back then, probably already 5, 6 years, 4 years in, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But about 6 months prior to living in Amsterdam, something traumatic happened in my family and something inside of me shattered. And what happened was that I lost trust. I lost trust in the world. I lost trust in literally everyone. Lost trust in my best friend. Like, is she really cooking right now? Like, it was extreme. Um, and one day I got really triggered, um, kind of badly. My partner had a work meeting. Well, not even a work meeting. It was like outside of work with a female colleague. And it was just a coffee. Actually, totally normal. And I think I've never shared this with anyone. Well, yeah, I have, but not here online. Anyways. But in my body, it was war. It felt like spiraling. It felt like there were so many stories flying in my mind. I felt not good enough. I felt insecure. I felt jealous. And I never had felt that before in my life. And here's something that, like, that's why this one is one of those experiences that I've never experienced before, because I had an out of body experience in that time as well. So as this happened, as he shares this with me, um, I sit on that couch and I cry. I cry, I cry, I cry. Couldn't stop crying. He listens. And out of a sudden, I noticed that I'm not in my body. I was on the ceiling and I was looking at down and I saw myself on the couch with him sitting there. And I watched myself cry and talk. And out of a sudden, I was like, stop. This might sound so weird right now, but I can see myself from above. And I just want you to go to have that coffee and just leave me here for a second. Yeah, I need to cry right now because that's not me. That's not me. I don't know what's going on. This is so weird. I've never had this before. So I kind of like get overly emotional as well with this because I've never experienced something like this. But it broke the loop, it broke the pattern. So I stayed, he left, and I met myself in that moment. And of course, it was nice when he came back and gave me a hug and stuff, But it was more of the moment of me realizing, stop, Lisa, you know who you are. And the reason why I'm sharing this story, because it's not necessarily tracing back to the very past, but it was only 6 months prior to this, where it literally just shook me. And that moment, and that's why also I believe I was able to snap out of it so quickly, is because I knew who I was. And it's like, this is not common. I've never felt this emotion before. What's going on? Like, I don't know why would I be like, I go on coffees, like it's not a big deal. Um, your triggers might not be as visual as mine right now, but the principle is very much the same. Becoming untriggered, what it gives you is a clear mind, clean boundaries, and real power back that you haven't felt in that moment. And I want you to have that as well. So before we kind of like continue and wrap this up, the take home exercise is really asking yourself in those moments, what am I actually reacting to? What's actually happening right now? Number one. Number two, what does this remind me of? And number three, what do I need now that I didn't get back then? These questions will help you literally unearth these loops that keep running your life. And even if it's not your life, because you've already done the work, maybe it's these little moments. What I have seen in my journey in like building business, scaling, hiring, firing, da 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 da, I need to be freaking in my center in order to actually build legacy. If not, it's only like I'm saying yes to the wrong opportunities because I don't know what really is right for me. So I want you to start to write a new script for yourself based on the now, based on the decision that you make now, not based on your past. And so many people don't take the time. They stay stuck. But it's not you, because you're here, obviously, and you're listening, I hope. But there's just, that's, I would say that's probably one of the most heard compliments I ever, like, always get in my life is that I face things, I feel deeply. I take the highs and I take the lows. I don't run away from them. And I didn't know that until now how powerful this is. Like it was something that I learned over time, that I trained myself over time. But only now I can say, wow, I could have reacted in that situation very differently, and I didn't. Even also this year, I walked I walked someone I really truly loved into death in a way, and that wasn't on my, well, I didn't know that this would happen this year, but it happened. And it was up to me to meet that fully, to be there, you know? And that's what life is always asking us to feel, to stay open, to be real, and to return to ourselves. And I think that's also what being untriggered really gives you. And at the end of the day, this work helped me 100% in every single aspect of my life. If that's relationships, a conscious breakup, I haven't really talked about, but this is something that really did help how we maturely ended things, or how, in client work, in the way that you do partnerships, in the way that you are going into investor meetings, that matters. And now I talk a lot about entrepreneurship, but I mean, everyone experiences triggers. I'm just sharing from my point of view, right? Like there's so many things anyways, who like everyone feels them. So bringing it back, these are the three steps that I told you like multiple times today. And I want you to go through them and remember people who've done this workbook, like this other, like that worksheet, trigger sheet, um, that essentially kind of like talks about these three steps, but it's actually a four-step. Anyways, it's not important right now. But I can see the difference from the people who've done it to the people who have not. They develop a deeper awareness around the triggers. And at first, maybe they shift from blaming or shaming themselves or others because they're finally in themselves. They finally are present. They start projecting less because they're observing more. And then I can also definitely see this in their business, in the way that they, let's say, scale their business, in the way that they deal with their emotions. I've seen how they handled the difficult situations when someone wouldn't pay, or when they had to hire a lawyer and stuff like this, you know? There are so many aspects to this in entrepreneurship, but again, it applies beyond that, obviously. If you're not an entrepreneur, that's fine. Obviously, you still have moments in life that triggered probably the fuck out of you. So we all have them. But there are moments where we have to stand strong, stay grounded, and hold our boundaries. And that is the moment when our power can actually return. And that is actually when we can respond to what life is offering us in that moment. And sometimes what life offers us is not what we want, what we wished for, but how do we meet it? That's truly what I believe what makes or breaks the bank, emotionally, financially, relationally, everything. Like this is truly what it does. So if there's one key thing to take home today, it's definitely this. And I kind of feel stupid to repeat it again, but it's that. What's actually happening right now? What's the oldest memory I can associate with this feeling? What do I need right now that I didn't get back then? And obviously, there are amazing tools like breath work and somatic release sessions, like using your body. The thing is, what I've seen very often is that even though through breathwork and somatic release sessions, I think they are a bonus to this work. Because if we only do one thing and don't associate where it kind of lingers, where it's coming from, we kind of stay still stuck. So that's at least from my experiences, what I've seen with clients. They've done all these incredible works, and yet they still repeat the same patterns. And I think we grew up in a society where the mind is primarily kind of like we focus on the mind primarily. And so that's why this is kind of a guided journey for you to drop deeper into the body, but in a, let's say, in a way that gets the mind, that the mind gets in a way, if that makes sense. And again, you don't have to be perfect in order to do this. You just need to be different in the moment. And as I said before, like for example, the trigger, I've probably other trigger moments that I can share with you. Oh my word, I have one. But then I was 18, and things looked very different then, and I was very angry. But the reason why I was able to snap out of this trigger that I shared with you earlier is because this wasn't really a recurring pattern. It's because it was so unusual for me that I was like, wait a second, what the heck is going on? Because I knew my nature, I knew my emotional state. And that's important, to know your emotional state, to know what's normally, like as I said earlier, these feelings are your cues to that you are in a trigger moment. That's when you can kind of snap out and disrupt the pattern. And when you're unaware of yourself and your life feels like stuck and you look around and asking, why does this keep happening? That's your awareness begging you to look within, to get to know your values, to get to know your boundaries, to kind of map out these emotional things, landscapes, let's say. Because when you do, everything shifts and you stop reacting, so let's say drastically, and you stop recycling the same loops. And last but not least, I'm going to bring it in because I think that's important. I said something about the mind right now because the quote unquote problem is our mind, why we're still stuck. I want to say, I think the mind is one of the most powerful and incredible tools that we as humans have if we know how to use it. So if we're triggered and we're staying in the same loops, then our mind is kind of usually also with like, obviously also the body keeps the score, right? Keeps and just like holds on to the memory, physically speaking. But the mind is usually the one that runs the show at this point still. So the mind loves safety. It always chooses the path of least resistance. Everyone has maybe probably heard this. And unfortunately, that path is often just the old programming. So that's the old wound, that's the familiar pain, that's the story you keep telling yourself. And that's not true safety. And this is about predictability, but not safety. And that's the point where we need to rewire what the path of least resistance actually is. Because the mind wants to survive, but not thrive. So it's more about survivor rather than safety. And if it can't predict your next move, it panics. And it wants you to get real quick back into the old pattern, no matter how that feels inside of your body, by the way. So that's why doing something new, especially something emotionally mature, when you come from a very reactive space, feels like a resistance at first. But the key is to keep going, because if your mind has been programmed, it can be reprogrammed. So if you've been kind of conditioned, or you conditioned yourself unconsciously, you can also condition yourself now consciously. Everything that we did today was raising your awareness, becoming more conscious around your emotional states and responses. And that's exactly why I wanted to tell you this, because what we're doing right now. We're building this fertile emotional soil for the future you actually want to live. We're bringing awareness to what's been running the show, aka the past. That's the trigger work. That's the untriggering. That's when we untangle the loops. We integrate the loops. We integrate the triggers. So you can come from fullness and create from wholeness. And the more we follow these steps, and I've been, teaching them for probably over, I don't know, 5, 6 years, the more they become second nature. Everything that we do multiple times, it becomes second nature. That's obviously why I also created that journal, because I wanted you to have something to do again and again and again and again. It's like a 5-minute journal, if you've ever seen this online, just not as pretty probably, but still, this is exactly what I wanted you to have, making the process of untriggering automatic in your nervous system. And everything that I teach as well as today, I don't want you to be dependent on it. Of course, I would love for you to get that journal whenever it's whenever it's online. But my goal essentially is use it twice, buy it twice, maybe 3 times. That's it. If you need it 10 times, fine, no judgment. We all have different, let's say, histories, stories, level of awareness, different environments we grew up in. But I created this so it becomes an internalized system. You don't have to buy anything, by the way. You can watch this 10 million times, and that's, you know, the 3 steps, right? Just do the 3 steps. That creates a felt safety, a trustworthy reflex in your nervous system. Because again, integration, and I think that's when emotional maturity actually blossoms. It's when true integration happens. And it doesn't happen by only listening. So again, take not my word, like from what I just said. It happens by applying. It doesn't happen just by listening to this, but applying this. You can listen to this 5 times, but it won't change unless you use it. Knowledge without application, it fades. It's the same with my German. I barely speak German. So my German sounds very, very weird. Pronunciation is off. The words that I'm using, they don't fit the language or like the sentence anymore. Also, I don't speak English very well anyways, It's like, it's the same. It applies to everything. It applies to here right now. Emotional fluency requires practice. When you really understand how your mind and your body and your subconscious and nervous system work, that's when you realize how much influence you actually have. You have so much power, and we outsource that. You have so much power over the direction of your life, over your relationships, over your business, more than you think. So start. Start connecting, start pausing, start creating a pattern interrupt, to step back, zoom out, see what's actually happening. And as you do, as you see what's actually happening, that's when you then can connect more with the past versions. And it's the craziest thing. Now we talk about it. And let's say half a year, you're gonna be like, oh, what? I reacted like this before? I can't even remember. It's that weird. Like, transformation is funny in this sense. Because I cannot go back into this living room situation anymore, because that feels so odd to me. It just doesn't make sense to me in my body. So let's come back to the flow of this work. And if you haven't done it yet, I do want you to write it down, whatever it is. Pause, create your emotional maps. So these exercises that I shared with you today, they give you that awareness. Interrupt the loop, return to yourself, which again translates into wholeness, and then do it again and again and again, as if you start learning to walk, because that's when you automate it in your system, in your nervous system. And this is how the now version of you becomes the leader of your life, which is, by the way, the most powerful place to be in. Not the past stories, not the survivor mode, not the inherited beliefs, but the here, you, now version. Because if you don't, we recreate the past. We keep building a future that looks like yesterday. And if you do want a different future, then you have to be someone different now. And again, it's not someone who needs to be fake or perfect. No, the most integrated version of yourself. That's what we're talking about. The one who feels safe in the now, who does not need to be run by outdated patterns anymore. And that version of you that deserves to lead, that deserves to love, that deserves to build from peace, not from, oh my word, I need to create this. Like many creators that I've met, it's like, I need to do this, I need to do that. And they consistently try to overcompensate a lack of safety within, a lack of feeling worthy, a lack of whatever it is. That's something that's a gestalt that you can meet in the past. So after all of this, what I want you to take is very simple. In order to create emotional maps, if you start, then take 5 to 10 minutes a day to You can set an alarm for that on your phone. You can call the alarm emotional check-ins or whatever, and you can ask yourself, how am I feeling today? How was my day today? This tiny check-in, it builds again a new understanding of what is running the show. And that's how everything starts to change. And also know that whenever you stop, and then like this is the first step, right? Like emotional clarity, emotional mapping. Then you go these steps of like, wait, what's really happening here again? Like what's actually happening? The extra part. Where's this coming from? Where do I know this? What does this remind me of? And what do I actually need right now? This process, the next, like these steps, for example, that can come with resistance. Again, your mind wants to be quote unquote safe, aka familiar. It wants to keep everything the same because it believes it will be safe then. It's just about survival. But your mind doesn't know that your heart doesn't lead you in any dangerous situations. So we have to retrain that whole inner system, the underlying system. And that's what happens very naturally. So you don't even have to overthink it. You just have to follow those steps. That's it. That's when you give it to yourself, when you understand what you need right now. That's when you give it to yourself. And that essentially is the power. That's reclaiming your power. That's emotional leadership. So you always have the choice then. When you have the awareness, you have the choice. You have the choice to return to the driver's seat of your car and of your life. Because in triggers, we usually end on the back seat. We're not on the passenger seat because we're literally just looking at someone else driving. And then if we're so disconnected, then we might as well end up in the trunk. Can't even see stuff anymore, right? So owning your life means owning your patterns, owning your past, owning your presence, so you can direct your future from wholeness and from clarity. And while I've talked a lot about triggers today, more on like, let's say, the harder side, the wounds and the fears, we shouldn't forget that there are also positive triggers, okay? Moments that expand us, elevate us, remind us of ourselves, because those matter as well. But the thing about today is that we focus on building and being able to build a regulated and resilient and emotional, mature foundation for yourself, that whatever life brings, you meet it with your clearest and kindest and most rooted self. And that is also something that maybe you will find in other teachings, and they call it reparenting, because I think that's essentially what it is. It's you as your mature self going back to the younger, wounded version, the incomplete gestalt, sitting with him, her, feeling him, her, what they needed, showing them that they're no longer alone, because also understanding that they've never been broken. They were just reacting from a system that they didn't know that, yeah, they had. And that's also kind of where I want to close for today. Everything that I shared today with you is obviously important. I mean, we all know this. This work is important emotionally, or being able to understand emotions is important. Um, I've mentioned steps multiple times. I highlighted them multiple times. Emotional work is not, let's say, I'm going to get it done like right after this call and I'm done forever with it, right? I've practiced that so many times that I want to say that it can take time. It doesn't have to take time, but it's about you, what you want. And I hope that I underline the importance of how your life and the trajectory of your life is going to change in such a great, beautiful way if you do take ownership of everything that you bring. So thank you truly for being here, for listening, for staying present.